What's up guys, today we're going to show you how to smoke some salmon without an actual smoker. And all you're going to need is a charcoal grill like this one right here. But first, let me show you what we need to do to prep the fish. So as you can see, we got the salmon all ready to go here. It's nice and filleted and scaled. So there's no scales here. That's not critical, but it will make your life a little bit easier because when there's scales here, they tend to make their way into the actual meat and you don't want that. So filleted and scaled if you want to make it grade A. If you want to go with the easier route, just leave the scales on. So before we do any smoking, we first have to do what's called brining the salmon. And so what that's going to do is actually take some of the moisture out of those fillets. So the way we do that is with some chemical nonsense, osmosis, whatever, something or other. All I know is that we're going to put salt and sugar on here. And so this is about 3 parts brown sugar, 1 part salt. So if it's 3 cups of brown sugar, 1 cup of salt. Somewhere in that range. I never measure anything, and if you like it a little more salty, obviously you can put more salt. And if you like it a little bit sweeter, which like I do, put a little bit more sugar. So to make my life easier, I've laid all the fillets out nice and flat so that nothing is overlapping each other. And then all we're going to do is take this brown sugar and salt mixture and just coat all this generously, like that. So as you can see, you can't see any of the salmon anymore, and that way it's all going to brine evenly. There won't be any places that are a little more drier, a little more wet. And so the next step now is just keep it in a cool environment, aka the fridge. So I mean, I've done it up to 48 hours, and you can do it as little as probably 8 hours and it'll probably be fine too. Just play around with it. The longer you brine it, obviously the more moisture you're going to take out of that fish. So whether or not you like your smoked salmon a little bit drier, a little bit more moist, you can plan your brine accordingly. So at this time, we're going to put these smoking chips into water, and that's going to soak in the water for a little bit over 12 hours. And that way, once we start cooking, we can throw these on the coals and they won't immediately just burn out. They'll give it a nice smoke. Guys, it's next morning, so you can see some of the fish is actually outside of the brine. The brine is this like liquidy stuff. All that sugar and salt that we put in there has sucked all this moisture out of the fish, but some of it is out, on top of the water outside of the brine. So I'm actually gonna flip these all over so that they can all get a good even brine, like so. Now back into the fridge. Alright, so now that they've brined, we're just going to lay these out on the grill. And if it's a hot day, you probably want to do this inside or in a cooler place. But today's pretty mild, so you can just do this outside. We want these to get a nice tacky outer layer. And that's going to allow these fillets to lock in the flavor once we actually start smoking them. Usually just set them out for about an hour. That's good enough time. So you'll see I have all the fillets on this side of the grill. I'm gonna actually have the flame right here, so I want to get them as far away from that flame as possible. And also I've put the thicker pieces a little bit closer to the flame, the thinner pieces a little bit farther away, just to try and even out the cooking a little bit. And also, if you want to put any flavoring, I mean, smoked salmon, there's a ton of different flavorings you can add. I've just done a simple peppering on a couple of these. I actually just like the regular straight up smoked salmon, but just to mix it up a little bit, light sprinkling of pepper on a couple of those. So we'll leave this out for about an hour and we'll fire up the grill. You can see also, this is the container where the salmon were. I mean, look at all that moisture in there now. That wasn't there before. That's all from the fillets themselves. Alright, so now that we got these coals nice and ashed over, you can tell it's nice and warm. We're going to toss on a couple of these wood chips that we had soaked in the water overnight. And that's going to create a nice smoke. We're going to drop on our fish just like that. And we're going to go ahead and close the lid. I like to leave it just a crack open on the fish side of the grill, so that way all the smoke will, pass over the fish and then come out on this side. And if you're looking for a certain temperature, you could always stick a thermometer in there, but I've done this a few times and I know that this is going to be perfect temperature. So you can see there already some smoke coming out. Perfect. We're gonna let this sit for about 30 minutes and then I'll check back with the next step. So this has been on here for about half an hour, and now every half an hour I'll take this little cup of honey here and just sprinkle it over the fillets. Just give each one a nice dab of honey. Some people also use like maple syrup or anything that's sweet and not too watery, I guess. All right, and then lastly, just throw a few more of these wood chips on there just to get that smoke started again. We'll cover that back up and we'll do the same process every half an hour for about 3 hours, and then we'll check the progress then. All right guys, so it's the next day now. Got a little bit too dark for me to film the final product. I smoked these for about 5 hours yesterday. Pretty low heat, so that's why it took that long. Normally if you cook it a little bit hotter, I only do it for about 3 hours, but these took a little longer. So you know it's done. I mean, if you cooked enough, you could probably tell even without doing this, but when it flakes off like that, that's when you know it's nice and cooked. So smoked salmon, I think when you cook it slower and longer, like I do with this one, it's more of like a jerky-like. I mean, it's not like beef jerky, it's definitely more tender than that, not chewy like beef jerky, but a little bit more on that end. And if you cook it faster, warmer, it's a little more closer to like a cooked fish texture, but totally up to you, personal preference. I like it both ways, and I just dropped a piece, unfortunately. The brine, if you do more salt, you can get a nice salty flavor. And if you do less salt, obviously it'll be a little bit sweeter. On top of that, the honey that we kind of based it over, it gives it a nice sweet glaze. You can see it's kind of shiny. Smoked salmon without even using a smoker. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys want to see next. We'll see you on the next one.